Well, I'm going to interrupt you now because we've got our guest on the line, Gilliyan Carter. Here she goes.
Gilliyan Carter Morgan is a leading sports and remedial massage therapist. She has a wide range of treatments for horses and humans.
Good morning, how are you?
Good morning, I'm good, thank you.
I'm sorry I had to put you on a quick hold.
That's okay.
Things happen behind the scenes here very quickly. So, have you had a good month? The last month been good for you, or the last week?
I have been very, very busy, actually. Last week, I have to say, I was on holiday.
Oh, nice.
Now, Julie, tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
What I'm doing?
Your work, yes.
My work, some of you will have heard me on the radio previously, but I work on predominantly horses, quite often dogs, and less often people, if I can help it, using specifically massage techniques, stretches, rehab exercise, all hands-on, obviously, for either sport horses, leisure horses, horses with problems, and that goes through the same with the dogs and the people, really.
What about this T-Touch?
Tillington Touch. I haven't actually ever come across anybody personally that uses it locally, but I believe there is a for every kind of therapy. Some horses can take quite a lot of pressure through the sessions, and some can take barely any. So there's a place for every type of therapy, if I'm honest.
I was fascinated on your website. You talked about saddle fitting. Does that mean that people are riding horses with a saddle that doesn't fit properly?
Oh, yes. I would probably say, if I'm completely honest, at least 75% of the saddles don't fit the horses correctly. Either the seat size isn't correct, because it has to fit the rider as well as the horse. You know, it's a complete unit. And quite often I find very much that people want a particular type of brand of saddle rather than what's best for the horse, or for them for that matter. So, yes, that is a huge problem. I mean, apart from the actual horse itself, you know, the saddle is the next most important purchase you're going to make, and it needs to fit. One of the things I find a lot is people say, but it was made to measure. But I can guarantee my dress I have made to measure last summer won't fit me again this year, or maybe even by Christmas.
So does that mean the saddle won't be suitable for the following year? They have to have somebody come in and have a look at it again?
That's right. And, you know, horses do fluctuate in weight. You know, the grass and the environment that we keep them in. You know, if we have a good summer like we have this year, grass will grow, they'll eat and munch and get fat, so the saddle becomes tight. In the winter, they may lose the weight because there is no grass to eat. And, you know, feeding regimes can be quite difficult to get a handle on, so they lose a lot of weight, and then the saddle's too big and bounces around and rubs. So, yes, I mean, it is recommended. I would normally suggest that people have it checked at least every 6 months, if not every quarter.
I know what's happening in Britain. There used to be saddlers that did a lot of work and repairs and everything. And here in the UK now, we tend to buy our saddles from India and so forth, don't we? Sort of ready-mades off the pegs rather than properly made. Is that a problem you see? And is that a problem do you think would happen in Spain too? Certainly they're much cheaper if they're Indian.
It's happening all over the world, isn't it?
But then how would they know if this saddle fits their horse?
They don't.
They don't. So who is going to tell them whether that saddle fits or not?
Chloe.
Gilliyan is going to tell us.
Sorry, Gilliyan. No problem. So there you are. This is what's good. No, we're being serious here. That, you know, this is a special piece of equipment which people take for granted, I believe. If 75% of people have got the wrong saddles, there is something wrong. It's like me with dog leads and harnesses. People who've got harnesses have got no control.
Yeah.
You know, they've got to have a dog on a collar.
Yeah, and then they put them too loose and the pressure point is on the wrong place.
That's right.
Yes.
So we do know where you're coming from because we have the same situations in the dog world.
We might give people some tips what they should really watch out for on a saddle.
That's a good idea, Gilliyan.
Yes. Tips people will need to look at the main structure of most saddles, because there are so many different types of saddle now. Some that have trees in them, which are, you know, like a mainframe structure, like a skeleton would be. So it has a tree which the saddle is built around, and they all come in different shapes and sizes for a start. So the tree of the saddle and the points to which it comes to need to match the angulation of the horse's wither. That's the top part of the horse's shoulder where their neck finishes. It needs to match that for size. Quite often I find people think that when their saddle doesn't fit correctly and it's too tight, putting a big thick numnah or pad underneath it helps. But my angle is, if you've got tight Wellingtons, you don't put thick socks on to make them fit better, because obviously that makes it even tighter.
Yes.
But you are going to get a large collection of people, surely, who are going to say, you know, I've had to save up for my horse, I've had to save up for my second-hand bridle, my second-hand saddle and boots. I can't afford it. What do I do?
Absolutely. In those instances, for me, from what I've found from obviously my own horses and horses that I've observed, if you actually get a wider saddle than what your horse needs and then use the correct type of padding underneath it, the fit would be better than it would be if it's too narrow, and because it's just going to pinch the horse and cause damage.
Oh, that's a wonderful tip. That's a wonderful tip.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you know, if you're worried about it, how would you know if the saddle doesn't fit? I suppose you'd see saddle sores if it was a really bad fitting saddle.
Yes, you would see sores. You would have dry patches underneath your saddle when you take it off when you've ridden for a while. So if you've had like an hour's lesson, your horse has built a sweat up, there should be a sweat patch under the saddle, and it should be wet from back to front with no dry spots on whatsoever. Dry areas indicate points of pressure. So those dry points need to be addressed. Also, you may find that the saddle is slipping while you're actually riding, so you're having to readjust yourself in the seat all the time. That's an indicator that the saddle doesn't fit. There's also that the saddle may actually be too long for the horse's back. There can be some that are quite short, some that are very long. So finding the last rib on the rib cage and tracing it up to where the last rib should sit. The saddle should not go back any further than that. So therefore, if it is over that, you know your saddle's sitting too far back and causing imbalance problems for the horse as well as discomfort.
I think everybody that has a horse and a saddle should go today and have a good look at their saddle.
Yes, and without a cloth on.
Without the cloth on, yes.
Without the cloth on. My mum years ago, and I don't know whether people still do this now, I used to buy, you know, I loved my shoes, and my mother used to always put talcum powder inside my shoes and make me put my feet in it so that she could see how close my toes were to the end. Because I would always say, oh no, they fit perfect, when actually they didn't. You can do the same thing with the horse. You can actually, you know, put powder on your saddle itself, put it on the horse, ride it, and you'll be able to see where the areas touch and where they don't. So it's very coarse, very vulgar way of doing it, but it will give you an indication as to whether it fits or not. To be honest, what you need is a proper qualified saddle fitter to come and have a look.
Good.
Yes.
That sounds like a really good idea.
Yes.
And the other thing I was fascinated was the fact that you massage horses. I'd have thought they'd be too big to massage.
Oh, no. I mean, I have got one. One of my clients is 19.2. That one, I have to say, is a little on the large side.
What do you do? Use a staircase? Use a set of steps?
I need a rather large set of steps, yes. What I do tend to find, actually, is owners with the larger horses tend to have bigger steps for me. So, because I normally carry my own step round with me, which is not big enough for him. But they're actually a lot easier to massage than people, to be honest, because I can use bigger muscle body parts. So I can use the muscles of my hands, my elbows, my forearms, rather than just concentrating on my fingers.
Now, can I ask the question, do you actually do the saddle work for the people?
I don't do the saddle work. I have completed a course that allows me to understand how a saddle should fit correctly. So I can actually look at how someone's saddle fits on their horse and advise them accordingly. That doesn't make me a saddle fitter. And if I had any queries with that, I would be referring them back to their own saddle fitter for adjustment. But yes, I do look at the saddle because it's it's a big part of what I see as a therapist is the compensatory problems that the horse has, trying to avoid the sore part from the saddle. So it will cause other compensatory issues that obviously therapists will have to address.
Fantastic. I'm fascinated with your work.
Yes.
I'm very fascinated, and I'm also fascinated about the amount of people that do love their horses that are not aware of this work you're doing, and that
Absolutely.
Their saddles are not well fitted and can affect their performance.
Absolutely can. I mean, quite a lot of people will have different saddles for different disciplines as well. So they might have a saddle for general riding, a saddle for jumping, a saddle for dressage. Obviously, it depends on the depth of their pockets as to whether they have that or not. But quite often that can be very beneficial, and I do actually see quite a difference with the horses when they do have a different saddle for different disciplines. It does make a difference.
I think we're talking here to the general public, you know, people that have a pony or two, or a horse or two, family people.
Yes.
And go to the odd
company. Though, because some people do have more than one saddle, even though they are just happy hackers.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, very important part of the whole picture.
Right. Well,
interesting.
I found you very, very interesting. This is after about 8 emails each way, isn't it?
Yes.
We finally got her.
She's lovely. I don't know how you put up with me.
Oh.
Anyway, darling, thank you very much for coming on. You've really taken us back with this information. It's
thank you.
Something which I'm going to get a lot of publicity on this for you.
Super.
All right, my dear. Well, thank you for coming on, and we'll speak to you shortly.
No, thank you for having me.
After another 8 emails. This lady, she's in. Everybody wants you, don't they? Okay,
Nice
dear.
to talk to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care.